Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It is Wednesday. We are Debate Sensei. We got Tim Seavey from Visolutions, San Diego State University. Yes. I am Jared Kubika Miller, your professor of communications, debate coach. Matt Shapiro is out getting his license to become a cow simulator. He didn't give me any. Yeah, I wonder what that is. I don't know.
I think someone should Google it just to
should look
be
it up.
totally sure. No.
Look it up.
Nice.
Cow simulator.
I'm wishing him best of luck. Hope he gets
Yeah,
in.
yeah. I mean, it sounds intriguing and rewarding. So there you go.
Yeah.
All right, excellent. Hey, this is a fun week because we are doing our topic selection week. These are where we take recent IPDA topics from a tournament that just happened, and we rank them based off of how likely we would go for it on the affirmative and the negative. So we got 5 topics. These are from the gold round at Fall Champs PSCFA, hosted by Moore Park Community College. Just this last weekend.
It was a hell of a tournament.
Yeah. It's going to influence what we're talking about next week. Oh, and just to let you know, we're gonna have one more broadcast next week, and then we're gonna call season 4 a wrap. We should take off for the holidays, and we'll see you afterwards. So join us next week for our discussion about a theory-based issue that also came up at the Fall Championship. But for right now,
that's a sad way to sell the series finale. You have to say something like the most shocking season finale yet.
Oh man, we will sacrifice a small animal.
Yeah,
live.
That's the kind of that's what the people want.
All right. So
topic selection.
That's where we are right now. Okay. Hey, I love the gold medal round. I looked at these. I'm like, yes.
Yeah, these are killer topics,
especially for the very first one. So hell, let's just jump into it. Okay. Boom. Hit him with the big stuff, man. Oh my God.
So I have such feels about this topic. Like, I'm not a child psychologist, and that's how I would start my speech on either side.
Both sides.
Yep. Because you got to make it clear. Neither side is, nor is the judge. But now I'm going to spout off lots of things that child psychologists say. That would be the majority of where I go. That would be probably the majority of my strategy is just what are we doing to kids?
Yeah. Now, I got 3 kids, and so I had this dilemma. I'll be honest with you. When the time came up,
I cannot see you lying about that. I can see you just very straight from the beginning, let's talk about the capitalist machine that Coca-Cola created in the 1930s.
Man. No, I was okay, we have, a pretty big following in my household when it comes to Christmas. We put up lots of decorations. My youngest is very, very much into Christmas still. And they just stopped. They just realized that, well, nobody's watching right now, so who cares? Yeah, but the little spoilers here, you might want to hide your kids from what we're about to say, but Santa does not exist. They just we should be honest. Now that would be hilarious if you went with that Santa exists on the affirmative. Yeah, we should be honest. We should stop lying to him that he doesn't exist.
Yeah, that's some bullshit. You don't know he doesn't exist.
You're just making straight up Miracle on 34th Street. Just this is the trial at the end of that thing. Oh my God. All right. Maybe I will go affirmative on that one. Oh man.
That's a fun strategy.
Oh, that would be hilarious. That'd be hilarious. Oh, oh man. But anyways, I don't know. I had some issues. Going with the whole facade, doing the whole charade and whatever.
But isn't it a pretty useful tactic of better clean up your dishes or else it just as a sheer ultimatum?
Yeah, well, like for like 3 days out of the year at most, you know what I mean? It's like like kids don't have that sort of long-term sort of vision, you know what I mean? You can't be telling
Mm,
them stuff like that in August. They're, you know, and it doesn't really help. I don't even think about it then, you know what I mean? So,
mm.
yeah, I did have some issues, but I just kind of kept quiet and let my wife, you know, go through the whole motions of, you know, of going and getting like my boots and putting them in the ashes of the fireplace and making footprints for
Oh,
Santa.
wow.
Yeah, we went that
Really went
level
at
right
it.
there, you know. And so, yeah, I was very happy when each of my kids came to the realization that it was just a big old story.
And they came there by you yelling it at them
Yeah, at the worst time. It's
on
like, I don't
Christmas
want to clean
morning.
my
They're
room. It's
being
like,
too
oh, yeah,
loud.
Santa doesn't exist. What do you think about that?
Happy third birthday.
Yeah. Just out of spite, just the worst possible time, just to hold that power over them. Um,
Yeah, I
oh
would not have
man,
picked that first on either the F or the neg.
yeah.
Um, it is my second choice on the neg though.
Second choice on the neg, really?
Yep.
Okay. That I think
Yeah,
that
I
would.
just think that we lie to kids all the time about all kinds of stuff, and like, what's one more?
Yeah, I mean, I would downplay like the psychological impact of it because they're like, "Oh my god, I don't trust you." It's like, you know what? All the other parents do it too, and they'd be like, "All right, cool, fine. It's just something that
I
everyone."
mean, and so does like every piece of commercial stuff flying at them, and every teacher in their school. So it's like just it teaches them to trust conspiracy theories. It'll go great for them later in life.
I think I'd lean a little AF on this one. I
Okay,
think
I have it
like
third on the affirmative.
yeah, I have it like third on both. Okay.
Hmm.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, where are we at? Oh yeah, it's let's move on. Let's transition. Here we go. Next one. Next one. Huh, this one's tough.
Uh, this is my first choice for the negative.
For the negative.
For the negative, specifically because I've got a super cool story that goes with it. It was actually my favorite impromptu example. And so I would just like tell that story and then just like extrapolate a bunch of stuff. And I would spend all of my prep time like learning more on it just because I think stories work really effectively. So there was this economist named Benjamin Price, and he wrote a book on the subject of altruism and from an economic standpoint, and like basically saying that it is impossible for humans to act truly altruistically, like to do things unselfishly. It's just physically
Right.
impossible because of the way the brain works and now markets and things, whatever. So this book he published was super successful, made a bunch of money from it, and like thought that was it. But then he's sitting there realizing that like he had made his fortune off of like saying that people aren't good, and it was like, damn, that really sucks. Like I've really kind of like tarnished this thing that could be great. So at the time, Honduras was like going through some really, I mean, it was like going some really like bad famine and stuff at the time. So he moved. He's like, you know what, screw it, I'm going to prove my own theory wrong. So he moved to Honduras, sold everything he had, and just started like doing everything he could to help everywhere, like just proving that he could be nothing but completely selfless. Gave away like all of the energy, time, capabilities he had, every penny, gave like the shoes off of his feet. He eventually ended up like super ill in a hospital and died in Honduras, and like just to prove that he could do something selfish or selflessly.
Wait, so your whole example is about one dude who felt that he was so brilliant that the only person that could beat his theory was himself, and that's your example of an unselfish act?
He had a touch of an ego, but what I do notice
Yeah.
though is the fact that I know this story and I heard it from the radio, which means lots of people know this story, means he told someone. So there was something that he was gaining from it, even if it was proving that he himself could overcome it. So like I get that you can get a little bit circular with that one, but I
Yeah.
think because it's such a mushy topic, I would just start like arguing in favor of like just be like, if you have a story about someone doing something selflessly, then it becomes like the paradoxus, or like it only exists if you don't believe in it. Like you can't have examples of something if someone told you that they did it. So you have to like operate from this logical fallacy place. It's a messy one, but I think that I would still prefer to be on the neg about it, because at least if nothing else, you can like tell a nice story.
Yeah, I think I don't know. I might be a little higher on this one on the affirmative than even with the Santa Claus. I might put this, and yeah, you and I might be debating this with you on the neg and me on the aff. I don't know. The next one might be about that, but like on the affirmative, like you said, there's nothing wrong with that. You know what I mean? I think like claiming that something is like, you can't help anybody unless you first help yourself. You know what I mean? It's like if you like, you got to have that sort of stability in order to build off of that and go on. And so it's about looking inward and being okay with yourself first and always. You know what I mean? It's like as you go out and do that, you have to be confident about it and not, I don't know. I think people.
But then that's just a sequencing thing, right? Then like,
yeah,
well, you must first be selfish to then later be unselfish.
right.
Well, but they're saying there's no such thing. So even after you're done being selfish, it's still impossible to ever be unselfish?
No, my argument is that you never stop being unselfish because everything is built upon that. It's kind of like the foundation is always present, even if it's covered up by the structure on top of it. It's like you can't say, yeah.
But like if I spend my time clubbing seals versus like serving, soup at a soup kitchen, like I think there's a difference in degree of selfishness there.
Yeah, there could be a difference in degree of selfishness, but it's always partly selfish. Like I think you could definitely make the argument. It's kind of like, listen, I need to do this to be okay with myself. You know what I mean? It's like the only thing that comes close to being an unselfish act is giving up your life for something, like dying for something.
Sure. Okay. So yeah, they can tell stories like people like jumping on grenades or whatever.
Right. That comes close. That one's difficult. That one's difficult to answer. Way more difficult than the soup kitchen one, in my opinion.
Fair. Okay.
If I was on the affirmative. Yeah. All right. This is my aff.
Oh, so really? This is my number 5 for both.
Number 5 for both?
This is my last place. This is the first thing that I strike on both sides. Why? Why would you want to debate it?
It would be a language thing.
I find this like, it feels like a silly word puzzle less than a debate topic to me. Like I wouldn't want to spend the time to unpack it. And like even in prep, especially like when you're doing topic strike, you got to go quickly. In the longer time than normal topic strike that I looked at this, I was still like, I don't wrap my head around it. I don't get it. I strike it.
Yeah, so I think the only problem with this resolution is that it's worded
double negative,
clunky way. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean that it's meaningless or useless.
No, I don't think it's meaningless. I just I didn't want to unpack it.
Yeah. So like a tolerant society. And so like if you have a measurement for tolerance, then in order to decrease the amount of intolerance as possible, you can't just allow people that want to increase intolerance into your tolerant society. Like the only problem with this is language, and we shouldn't let language get in the way of how we structure society. We should recognize the shortcomings of language. And even though this sounds, it's like when people say there is no universal truth. You're like, well, what? Maybe that's the universal truth. The universal truth is that there's no universe. I'm like, that's fucking useless. That's a useless statement. You know what I mean? It's kind of like that doesn't help at all, right? It's like hearing somebody out about the benefits of Nazism doesn't increase tolerance. It doesn't. You know, and so that would be that might be my criteria. If you can prove that listening to Nazis and hearing them out, it would increase tolerance, then okay, go for it. But no, the only reason it doesn't seem to make sense is because language is imperfect, not because we need to tolerate intolerance, right? That's it. And I think part of it is that people don't want to unpack it. I think that might be why I gravitate towards it, is because I've really come into liking language, And
Hmm.
I think I've gotten a much better understanding of language, especially its limitations.
Hmm.
You know, and like people think that language it can do all things and like can solve so much. I'm like, man, language limits us. Language, you know what I mean? It's like it's a really awesome, unique thing that only human beings do, but that doesn't mean that we are able to capture all of the phenomena around us within language and communicate
Hmm.
that within language. And this is an example of that. It's like, it sounds like circular and everything like that, but that doesn't mean that the concepts that it's trying to grapple with are irreconcilable. We can go like, we want a tolerant society. Yeah. Fuck Nazis.
Is that not in its so? Isn't that by definition intolerant of intolerant? Like, I guess I should just
No.
clarify then. Like, is not tolerating intolerance therefore making you more tolerant? Is that what you're getting at?
Yeah, see, like that sort of language game that's going
Mhm.
on there, Ludwig Wittgenstein would say that is useless. That
Well,
is
that's I'm actually like trying to understand your position on this.
no,
Of
no,
like
that's what
we're
and I'm
shutting down people that don't agree. Like we are canceling people
no,
that are disagree. Well, okay, I'm sorry. Hold on. That sounds like I'm sympathizing with the other side. I am for sure not. Let me hard stomp on the brake there. Let me pull it back real quick. That is not at all the position I'm coming at. I'm actually trying to like understand you here. So you're saying that we should a good tolerant society. We'll just assume that that is what that is for a second. Would not put up with people being intolerant of others.
right.
Okay. So there can be 0 degree of tolerance for other people being intolerant. So like we have a no zero tolerance policy for Nazism.
Yeah. Like I'd say that saying, yeah, Nazis are not allowed to serve in office would be a completely consistent with a democratic society.
So there's where I think it gets at like, what is a tolerant society and why does that matter?
Hmm?
Like
It-
what is a tolerant society and why does a tolerant society matter?
So one in like a tolerant society is one in which it promotes the inclusion of the maximum amount of people possible, including Nazis. They, by the very definition of their inclusion, they would exclude more people than we would include by allowing Nazis in. So let's say that you include one Nazi, they would exclude 50 people. You know what I'm saying? So if you just talk about the overall number of people that would be included in that society, if you include Nazis, they're like, well, since we're in here, those Jews have to go. And you're like, well, there's 50 Jews in here. You're like, yeah, sorry, but you said that we were allowed in here and our viewpoints matter and everything like that. I'm like, so we let one in and we have to kick 50 out. Sorry,
Ooh.
that's less tolerant.
Huh. Okay.
So it could be just a numbers game, and I'm cool with that. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah,
people
there
who are
are fewer
intolerant.
bigots than there are diverse peoples.
Yeah, like because like just the amount of like the weight that an intolerant person has, like the influence that they have, is way more than the weight that
Okay.
that a tolerant person has.
Okay, that's interesting. So I think if I had to be negative on this one, I wouldn't pick negative. Once again, I would strike this on both sides. But if I did pick negative, who's the dude that like infiltrated the KKK and like converted like 50 KKK members over his life?
Yeah, I know who
including,
you're
like,
talking about. I don't know his name
whatever.
offhand, but
So
yeah.
I think I'd probably just go with like, yes, it's a data point of 1, but go with that story of like, no one is truly a hateful person. Everyone like all intolerance just comes from a point of like ignorance and can be cured. And like the only way to like make a society tolerant is to like persuade the intolerant because like our stance as an intolerant society isn't like exterminate all Nazis. I mean, maybe it could be, but like it's so the only way to change someone from is if a person is a person first and a Nazi second, you can change them from a Nazi into a non-Nazi, and that requires like persuading them, and to persuade someone they have to be listened to first or something. So I maybe go for like
that's
some
fair.
argumentative
That's a fair,
theory and then some like
that's totally a good neg. That's a good neg. I like that neg.
I don't like the topic though.
Yeah.
It's a cool subject to like debate over beers, but I don't think I would want to do that in a round. I don't think I'd want like any, weight on my win or loss on that debate.
I don't know. Come back in 15 years, I might not like it as much, but right now I'm on, this sort of language kick, very, very Wittgenstein, you know what I mean? Like this is definitely one of those sort of like useless language game type of things that he pointed out that he was trying to solve it and stuff. And it just fascinates me. I'm kind of like, all right, cool. We can tell that this is a horribly worded sentence right now, and I'll just take it at that. But like, let's see what the usefulness behind this thing is. You start including tolerant people, you exclude way more people than you include by that.
That's very cool. All right. So maybe more fun to All right. What next?
This is a great one.
This is my first choice on the AF.
On the AF? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely lean AF on this. I could go neg though.
So the law is complete garbage and is written by nothing but like the most privileged old dead white dudes, and they still get to control and maintain the law. The law is useless, and I can give you 900 examples of, now assuming we're talking about like the US and like federal and state codes and whatever, like just countless examples of why oppressors write the law, and like ethics is nowhere near it, and therefore like include ethics because it's a more inclusive camp.
Yeah. I think I would lean AF on this one, but I could definitely make some arguments on the neg that like if you think that laws are oppressive, try it without laws and see how, like, if ethics are the things that are doing it, let's see who writes ethics. You know what I mean? It's like, because we do not have some universal understanding about what ethics are or agreement, and therefore what people consider to be ethical or unethical might be who has the most money.
Yeah, I think like religion tends to slide in there a whole ton.
Yeah.
And like that gets a little bit slippery, messy. Like most ethics courses are taught, if not like intermingled with, at least like butt up against like religious principle. Yeah, so like half the philosophy program at Chapman is like ethical inquiry, but it's just fortunately or unfortunately becomes inextricably tied with like religious theory, because the most prolific writers in ethics, like Aquinas and Descartes and all these people, like they had they lived in a hyper religious society. Like you had to be writing about the church, and like ontological arguments had to be based on what the church of the day said. So that becomes tricky. Like modern philosophy, you can get a lot more secular with it. So I think I would just make a claim that like ethics can transcend like states and peoples and cultures and time a lot easier and better than the law. Like the law should be responsive to ethics, and therefore, so again, like I feel so much more strongly on the AF. I don't know that I could argue particularly well on the neg, besides like it keeps people from, like it keeps us from the state of nature, but like.
Well, like I like the predictability argument a lot. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's kind of like the having a law makes it predictable for because things are written down and they last longer, and you know what I mean? Like
they're agreed upon, like multiple.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like so that has some traction for me to a degree, and voted on and things like that, because again, I'd be going back to like this sort of Wittgenstein approach where it's not what ethics means, but it's how it's used. And so like people will use ethics as an excuse to break the law. The first thing I think of is like January 6th. They all thought that they were doing good work by storming the Capitol, all right? Because that's the right thing to do, even though it's illegal, and so they really felt like their country was being stolen from them, and it's like they can't let this fraud stand and stuff like that. And so I think like ethics is way more vague than the law, and so it could be abused. You know what I mean? It could be co-opted. It could be corrupted. People can just use the label of ethics to justify their behavior as long as enough people agree with them.
Fair. I think that's maybe the tricky part, though. Like, in order to get lots of people to agree with the ethic that you purport, it's probably going to need to be like written somewhere, or you've got like a big rally of people that are all, you can shout at them with a microphone, right?
My
and then
favorite
social
thing to
media
do.
and stuff like that. So all that stuff written down, I hear you on that, but like, I think civil disobedience changed bad laws more times than like laws persecuted bad assemblers or something.
Okay. I try to follow that. I think I know what you mean by that.
Well, because I mean, partly because of the beginning of this, right? Like when in conflict. So it's not just like all the time you should act
right.
feel it's ethical. It's like, so when those two things rub up against each other, like I guess I would rather there be more. I don't know. That's like it's a little too reductionist, but like I would rather there be more protests against bad laws, and then sometimes you get people that protest against stuff for the wrong reasons, than vice versa. Then people are just like, oh, it's the law, and let it be.
Okay. Yeah.
Like I would rather a civil disobedient society than an obedient oppressed society.
Yeah. I mean, when you start saying that, I'm like, okay, now people might use that also as they'll only apply it in situations of privilege. It's like, well, this is a bad law, so I'm going to let this white boy go. But they won't apply that same principle against anyone who's not, and so.
I mean, like, if your ethic is straight up like racism is my ethical position. Like, I'm back to my, squad car. Like,
yeah.
I don't think it's usually quite as, while it is obviously super, super prevalent in the stats, I don't think it's like quite as straightforward on it. I guess I have a very optimistic view of like how people feel about and employ their ethics.
So now my favorite way of going about this is by applying a broad topic like this to a specific case area. So like the first thing I think about is kind of like, I don't know, like Texas abortion laws. It's kind of like doctors should just violate that. They should just, they know what the law is, and they should, that would be civil disobedience. But if you put it into a context, like a current event context, and you say, this is what we're talking about, and this is all we're talking about, and now you can't let someone like me come in and have all these different sort of, like possible, like hypothetical situations and stuff like that. You really block off all that sort of crap that I was trying to go for a second ago.
Okay.
Like I
think that would be, that's my number 1 for the AF, number 4 for the neg, though, just because I feel like it would be a lot harder to defend the law over ethics in, like, because that is saying when in conflict, prioritize the law. Like, if the law seems to be unethical, prioritize the law. So I have a hard time with that one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, you can get it, like, different people have different interpretations of ethics and, like, trust the law because lots of people voted on it or whatever. I just think that starts to get messy as soon as you bring in examples of unethical, like, ethically questionable laws.
Jury nullification. That's a really good case area, where jury nullification is where a jury decides that, yes, they agree that what the person did was technically against the law, but we feel that they should not be punished for it, so we're acquitting.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Jury nullification would be a very interesting application of that, like a really good case area, Should we allow jury nullification? They nullify.
That's actually a really cool topic. Next time SEC hosts a tournament, let's say that one.
All right, last one.
What's number 5?
Privacy is dead.
Man, it's good. So I have this argument with my dad after every holiday.
This is my neg. This is my number 1 neg.
Really? Oh, this is my number 2 AF.
Huh?
This is my number 2 AF.
Number 2 AF? Because going dead, I'm like, well, that means it had to have been living at some point.
Well, okay. I interpret it to mean that there is no privacy. And friggin' pre-internet. Yup.
No, I'm going to push back on that. I think like the word dead means that there is a prior, like you don't say a rock is dead.
Yeah.
It's never alive.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like pre-internet, people had privacy. Post-internet, they don't.
Yeah. I'm like, no, they didn't.
Really? So how was someone's privacy violated pre-internet? Like because they had to file taxes or whatever? Like, how many organizations had access to all of your information pre-1995?
Fucking dozens, man. Like, yeah.
Or fine, even go further back before the database existed, right? When it's just like files, like physical files in filing cabinets, right? Like, I don't know, 50s or whatever.
Yeah, I mean that's what private investigators did. It's like they just find shit out. Like people, and not only that, but those people could find shit out about you, and no one would ever know that they found out about it, and like they could get in there. It's not because they had privacy. It's because just because somebody doesn't know something about you, that doesn't mean privacy, right? I would also define privacy as the ability to withhold information from people. It's not just, all right, like being isolated or just being unknown isn't privacy. Privacy is a right to withhold information, right?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So it's like an active thing. It's not passive. It's not just that nobody cares about you.
Okay.
Right?
So what if, I mean, if all I have to do on the AF then is just draw on a line in the sand of when it existed versus when it doesn't, like, I don't know, pick up like when murder conviction rates really went up, like when we got actually good at forensic science or something like that. Like, people have been murdering since the beginning of time, and they only like started getting caught for it in the 50s or 60s or whenever we like, I don't know, when fingerprinting came up or when like DNA testing, or like basically each new innovation that allowed us to track people down. Like, people want to keep they want to keep their murder in private. They don't want to do it in the confines of their own home / warehouse, right? And so they could do that before it was easy to investigate them. And now it's easy to investigate them, and crime rates
I'd say anybody with power has always had the ability to come in and take your shit. It's the government, it's a gang, it's organized crime. I don't care. Anybody in power always had that ability. That means privacy has never been a thing. Privacy is a fiction that we have created to make people feel like they are safe. All right. It's like when you go to the airport, the illusion of safety, the theater of safety, right? Yeah. Privacy has always been a theater. Kings have violated privacy. All right. It's like, I forget that Latin name about, it's like, oh, that's your wife. Yeah. She's spending the night with me on the first.
Prima nocta.
Yeah. Right. It's kind of like, it's like, no.
So do kings have privacy?
What?
Did kings have privacy?
Did kings have privacy? Yeah. And if their subjects up and revolted against them. I mean, ask the King of France if he had privacy when he was getting beheaded. You know what I mean? He's getting dragged out, or the freaking Bolsheviks. You know what I mean? It's like, no, it's all about power. It's always been about power. And so you've never had, privacy is supposed to be a right, something that you can't violate, something that you can uphold in court of law, blah, 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 bullshit.
Yeah, I guess like the legal definition of it, I'm having a mushier definition of it than like the legal definition of whatever, Sixth Amendment, Fourth?
Yeah, Fourth, search and seizure.
Search and seizure. Yeah, like I guess I've got a looser definition of it, of like, if you can do something without another person knowing about it, or have something without another person knowing about it, like, I guess my definition of privacy is a lot less.
Yeah, you could do that as much as you did before. Like, don't put all your shit on the internet. Like in that case, yeah, like choosing to put your information out there doesn't mean your privacy is being violated. It means you're a dumbass for putting your information out there. Or you just
I wonder just like how much of a choice we have, though. Like, we do, but like, unless you were, burying gold bars in your backyard and like all of your food you grow yourself or something, like, I feel like it's impossible. I mean, it comes to a question of like, is being on the grid mean that you don't have privacy, or like, is that sacrificing privacy to shop in a supermarket?
But again, like I like what it's coming back to is comparison before and now. So it's not like, do you have absolute privacy? It's like, do you have less privacy, or is privacy been eroded so much that we call it dead now and alive before? Like, if there was just, if we've had marginal differences in privacy from 100 years ago till now, that's not dead. Okay. It has to be a drastic difference between, and there's not been a drastic difference in the amount of privacy that we've had. Maybe you can come up with an example here or there, something like that, but that doesn't prove death. Okay, death is extreme. It is absolute. It is irreversible.
Okay. Well, I've got a lot more to talk with my dad about this year. It's gonna be great.
Oh, am I your dad in this situation? Oh, damn.
Yeah.
Oh man.
But then there's a lot more just like the internet's ruined things. I'm like, all right, well, so
Is
cool.
that what he says?
So actually, I guess the opposite. I guess I'm the one that's saying that privacy is dead, and that's normally his position. So you've given me new ammo, so I guess I'm my dad in the circumstance. Worst fears come true. And on that, just kidding. If you're watching, love you, Dad.
Oh my god.
I mean, I know you're not on the internet, so.
Oh, that is a great way to end it. Yeah, that is a great way to end it. I get my whole thing is kind of like people say it's like, oh my god, so many things are so much different. It's like, yeah, we can talk about the differences, but let's not overblow this. Like it sucks.
Irreversibility is a pretty good argument. That'd be pretty tough to beat.
Yeah. All right, everyone. Hey, we're coming back one more week. We're gonna finish out season 4 next week. All right. We got Tim Seavey, Jared Miller. We'll see you.